Have you ever wondered if there's a secret to making the right choices in life? A king once asked 3 questions that completely changed his life. What is the right time to do things? Who is the most important person? What is the most important thing to do? These aren't just questions. They hold the secret to happiness and success. What were the answers? And how did they transform the king's life? If you also want to find out how these lessons can change your life, this story is a must-watch. Stay till the end. It might just inspire you forever. The 3 questions. Hello, dear viewers. Today, I want to share a story that is not only fascinating, but also teaches us valuable lessons about life. It's called The 3 Questions. Before we dive into it, let me ask you, have you ever thought about the best way to make decisions? Do you wonder who the most important people in your life are and what actions matter most? Let's find out what happens when a king searches for answers to these very questions. Once upon a time, there was a king who often thought deeply about life. One day, he asked himself, what if I could always know the right time to act? What if I knew who the right people to trust were, and what the most important thing to do was? Wouldn't I be able to succeed in everything I do? This thought stayed in his mind, and he decided he needed answers. He made an announcement across his entire kingdom. I will reward anyone who can teach me the right time to act in every situation, the people I should pay the most attention to, the most important thing to do in life. The first answers. Soon, wise people from all over the kingdom came to share their thoughts. But every answer was different, and the king grew more confused. Some scholars told him, the right time to act can only be planned. Make a schedule for every hour, day, and year. Stick to the plan, and you'll always know the best time to do anything. Others disagreed, saying, life is unpredictable. You can't always plan everything. Stay alert to what's happening around you and do what seems most important in the moment. Some advisors suggested, Your Majesty, one person can't make all decisions alone. You should rely on a council of wise advisors who can guide you. Then there were those who said, some situations need quick decisions, which no council can provide. Only magicians can predict the future. You must consult magicians to know the best time for any action. Question for you. If you were the king, which advice would you follow? Would you plan everything, stay alert, rely on advisors, or consult magicians? The second answers. The king then asked, who are the most important people I should focus on? Again, the answers varied. Some said, your advisors, because they guide you. Others said, the priests, because they ensure your soul is pure. Some suggested, doctors are most important, as they save lives. And others claimed, warriors are vital, because they protect the kingdom. Each answer seemed reasonable, but the king felt no closer to the truth. The third answers. Finally, the king asked, what is the most important thing to do in life? The responses were just as diverse. Some said, science is the most important, as it helps us understand the world. Others argued, strength in warfare matters most, because it keeps us safe. A few said, religious devotion is the key to a meaningful life. Once again, the king was left unsatisfied. He wanted clearer answers. A new plan. Determined to find the truth, the king decided to seek the advice of a hermit known for his great wisdom. This hermit lived far away in a forest and only met ordinary people. The king dressed in simple clothes, left his guards behind, and rode to the hermit's home. When the king arrived, he found the hermit digging the ground in front of his small hut. The hermit was old and frail, and each time he pushed his spade into the soil, he breathed heavily. The king greeted him politely and said, wise hermit, I have come to ask you 3 important questions. How can I know the right time to act? Who are the most important people in life? What is the most important thing to do? The hermit listened but said nothing. Instead, he continued digging the ground. The king noticed the hermit's struggle and said, you look tired. Let me help you dig. The hermit handed over the spade, and the king began digging. Question for you. What do you think about the king's actions? Was he right to help the hermit, or should he have insisted on getting answers first? A test of patience. The king worked hard, digging 2 rows of soil. After some time, he stopped and asked the hermit again, "Have you thought about my questions? Can you give me the answers now?" The hermit still didn't reply. Instead, he stretched out his hand and said, "Rest now. Let me continue." But the king refused to stop. He kept digging, thinking to himself, "Perhaps the hermit needs more time to think." Hours passed, the sun began to set, and the king finally put down the spade. He turned to the hermit and said, "If you cannot answer my questions, please tell me so, and I will return to my kingdom." At that moment, the hermit pointed to the woods and said, "Look, someone is running toward us." A new challenge. The king turned to see a man running out of the forest. He was clutching his stomach and blood was flowing from his wound. The man stumbled and fell at the king's feet, groaning in pain. The king and the hermit quickly tended to the injured man. They washed his wound, bandaged it, and gave him water to drink. The bleeding eventually stopped, and the man fell asleep. The king, exhausted from digging and helping, also lay down and slept on the ground. Question for you. What would you do if someone who once wanted to harm you needed your help? A surprising truth. The next morning, the king woke up to find the injured man looking at him with tears in his eyes. The man said, "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I am your enemy. I swore to take revenge on you because you punished my brother and took my land. Yesterday, I hid in the forest to attack you on your way back. But your guards found me and wounded me. I would have died if you hadn't saved me. You have not only spared my life, but also shown me great kindness. I promise to serve you faithfully for the rest of my life." The king was overjoyed to have turned an enemy into a loyal friend. He forgave the man and promised to return his land. The hermit's wisdom. Before leaving, the king turned to the hermit one last time and said, "Please, wise man, answer my questions now." The hermit smiled and said, "Your questions have already been answered." The king looked confused. "What do you mean?" he asked. The hermit explained, "If you hadn't stayed to help me yesterday, you would have been attacked by this man. The most important time was when you were digging the ground. I was the most important person, and helping me was the most important thing to do. Later, when this man came running, the most important time was when you cared for him. He was the most important person at that moment, and saving his life was the most important thing to do. Remember this: the most important time is now, because it's the only moment we can act. The most important person is the one you are with. The most important thing to do is to do good for that person." Final question for you. What lesson do you take away from this story? The king returned to his kingdom with a new understanding of life. From that day on, he lived by the hermit's advice, always focusing on the present moment, valuing those around him, and doing good wherever he could. What about you? How will you apply the lessons of this story in your life? Let us know in the comments. And so, the king learned a lesson that changed his life forever. The most important time is now, the most important person is the one you're with, and the most important thing to do is to do good. Imagine how much better our lives could be if we followed these simple but powerful lessons every day. If this story inspired you, why not take a moment to apply it to your own life? Remember, small actions can lead to big changes. For more inspiring and easy-to-understand stories to help you learn and grow, subscribe to English Tales, where every story is a step closer to mastering English and understanding life better. Let's grow together.